Good evening and welcome to the Dark Ozarks.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Lisa.
Hey, Josh. Hey, everyone.
We are we are now officially well within the Halloween season. I'm starting to feel right at home.
Yes, same here. Same here. And we had quite the Halloween time this weekend.
We did. Of course, first off, a huge thanks to the 70 plus folks who attended the haunted Hollister walking tour on Friday night.
Yes, a great crowd, lots of fun, and kind of reminded me why I like Halloween so much.
It was a neat night. It was a great event. I'm very grateful to everyone who was a part of it, and we got to tell some amazing stories. Some of those will get recapped tonight here on our short segment on YouTube Live. On our longer segment on Facebook Live, we do invite you to go over there to watch us live this evening. And then, of course, all the videos will be available soon to be binged if you are so inclined here on YouTube, as well as our long formats are on the Branson Podcast Network.
Yes, BransonPodcastNetwork.com under the Dark Ozarks tab. So,
really, really fun stuff. Also, now we are rapidly checking all of these events off. We're the list is getting shorter, but real quick recap on upcoming events. Dark Ozarks October Country is next.
Yes, this Saturday. Rapidly approaching. We will be at the VFW Post 534 in Joplin, Missouri, just off North Main Street, and it runs from noon to 8 p.m. And we are going to be talking about everything Dark Ozarks, from hauntings to cryptids to lore, dark history, etc., as well as the VFW itself, which is haunted.
Layers of potential hauntings there, and of course a lot of experiences that take place within those walls. And it's it falls into the category of one of my favorite types of hauntings, because it's in a comparatively new building. A good portion of the building was I believe built in the 1960s. And it's not a building that you would really associate. It is not a mid 19th century Victorian mansion, and that we of course think that only mid 19th century Victorian mansions or medieval castles are allowed to be haunted. That's not the case. We hope to see you there. It's going to be a great time. Tickets are available on paranormalsciencelab.com. And then what else do we have coming up?
Following that, on October 20th is the Downtown Joplin Walking Tour in conjunction with the Joplin Downtown Alliance. Yes. And Third Thursday Art Walk. We will be going over some of the interesting and salacious history of early Joplin and ghost stories that come out of it. And then after that, we are at Newtonia, Missouri on the 29th at the Ritchie Mansion in the Civil War Cemetery.
Yes, going to be really, really good. Then on November 19th, two events, one involving our awesome sponsor, Always Buying Books, who is also Always Buying Books in Joplin, Missouri, is our sponsor for the Dark Ozarks October Country at VFW Post in Joplin. And we will be at Always Buying Books on the afternoon of November 19th for a book signing.
Yes, so all of our various books will be there, and we will be there. Made signing easier.
It does. Also, I just realized, for the record, I have one book I'll bring a decent supply, but my signature is nearly illegible. So if you want to purchase used books, I can just sign random books as well. Nobody will actually know that it's me.
It's funny. Someone else uses that joke all the time. I'll have to tell you sometime. And then that evening, we will be at the Webb City Public Library
Yes.
for a tour and ghost hunt. And you may say, library haunted? But yes, it has been haunted since virtually when it opened in 1914. And very active, poltergeist activity, full body apparitions, and lots of things that go on. One of my favorite places to investigate. So come out and join us. And then we're likely to have some more events coming up after that, not too far on down the line.
Exactly. I think once you're on the Dark Ozarks train, you just realize that the spooky haunting season is actually 12 months out of the year, and just roll with it. It's actually quite fun.
It really
great. And oh, this is my and challenge to everybody else. If you okay, so I mean, for the record, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter fan. If you're a Muggle, the haunted season lasts until October 31st. If you're not, it is year round.
It really is. It really is. And I mean, and honestly, for with Paranormal Science Lab, it has been that way for years. So I mean, we've conducted tours year round for years. So I wouldn't have it any other way.
I would not either. Now, here for our short format on YouTube, let's just jump into maybe one or two of our favorite, perhaps juiciest hauntings.
Okay.
That we really like, or ghost stories, something that really stands out. Is difficult for me because a lot of things stand out, and then I kind of have to pick things apart from there.
Well, I'm the same way, but what is your favorite?
Oh, well, I'm going to take that question that was my question and then devolve for a moment. When I actually do want your opinion on this, so it'll be a good beginning. When people talk about the Ozarks and hauntings, what do you feel comes to mind? Some people don't even know about the Ozarks. Some people have a peripheral understanding of the Ozarks. Just in terms of doing Paranormal Science Lab for years and years, and as experience, where do you think folks' perception lies with hauntings and Ozarks?
The ones that get brought up the most would be the Crescent Hotel,
Mm-hmm.
the Spook Light.
Yeah.
And I would have to say, if you go to the Northern Edge Limp Mansion in St. Louis, Morse Mill Inn has become more popular. Pythian Castle in Springfield. Some of the battlefields, Pea Ridge, Fort Smith to a degree with the old fort, Wilson's Creek, and honestly, I'm in a way surprised, in a way not. Over time, Kendrick House has quite the reputation with people interested in the paranormal, and those are probably the real big ones, that you get asked about over and over, aside from Albino Farm and Zombie Road.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think that a lot of our oftentimes lack of a cohesive understanding of the history of the Ozarks prevents people from being able to contextualize
Hauntings. I think that is part of it. And almost the sense that, oh, nothing's interesting.
Yes.
Get that comment a lot. Nothing has ever happened here, kind of like the novelty plaque that you can buy, on this spot and whatever year, nothing happened.
Yes.
A lot of people seem to think that about the Ozarks, and very far from true.
Especially people who have grown up here, if they're not very familiar with the history.
Yeah, and a lot of people who didn't, but they're usually a little more honest of just saying, I really don't know the history, whereas a lot of residents are very confident in their assertion that nothing ever happened here. I've noticed.
Correct. I think that is very, very astute. So I can now answer your question.
had enough time to think, huh?
I had enough time to think, exactly. That journalism, law. Anyway, actually twofold, both
Okay.
very out of the way or regional places. One is a home that I've collected anecdotal information on in old downtown Springfield.
Yes.
And we have been to the near the area.
Mm-hmm.
It is private residence, so I won't disclose more than to say that it is in Springfield. It was built in 1900. Around 1930s, 1940s, it became a funeral home.
Mm-hmm.
And it then in probably 1960s until nearly present day, it was divided up into ultimately low rent apartment buildings or apartments within the building.
Right.
It is a large, beautiful home. And first of all, upon approach, it does have an energy about it. And the stories that I collect, which for the sake of actually doing something like really juicy, rather than actually talk about the hauntings, individual that I know pretty well was tasked with, he was one of the workers who was doing a remodel in the building. For the record, the home has been semi-remodeled multiple times and continues to stand empty because the construction crews do quit working on it. That is something consistent. And it was July. I was a young man. He was on the construction crew, and he was tasked with stopping in, working late alone in the evening hours. It's not in a great neighborhood. And being that he was there by himself, he was going to be upstairs using power tools that would eliminate him being able to hear anything in his surroundings. He made sure that all the doors and windows were locked downstairs, and then goes upstairs to begin work. I think he was doing drywall work. Gets into his work for a little while and thinks that he's heard a noise. He's been sanding, I think, so he takes off his stuff, thinks that he's heard a noise, feels a draft, which he finds odd, goes downstairs, and every first floor window and all the doors are open.
Yep, that'll do it.
It was with conversation with him. Also, it was my first introduction to actual cold spots, and he reported anecdotally a very dramatic cold spot, that they would encounter cold spots, particularly in the basement, that was cold enough to visibly see your breath during the middle of the summer.
That's pretty cold even for cold spots.
It is. It really is. Now, this is an individual I do know personally. It is anecdotally collected. I've not done an investigation in the location. But I really, really love it, simply because as much as I love paranormal tourism, this has nothing to do with paranormal tourism.
Yeah. And yeah, I can say honestly, some of my favorites are split between places that are known that I've investigated and places that are unknown that I may or may not have investigated. And is it bad to say it's kind of like picking between your kids that, I have a hard time picking my favorite haunted house?
Favorite haunted house. I think that's very fair. Well, on long format, we'll have plenty of time to dig into all of these. So I would say one of your favorite top 10.
Okay. I have to admit, I think it kept coming to mind as you were relating that story. Home, I have investigated it, but it's, again, nothing that is known to anybody. No one knows where it is or what it is or anything. That stands right along the Missouri-Kansas border, not too far from me. So it is still in the Ozarks. It was built in right around the late 1890s. And the same family owned it up through the early 2000s. And then it had sat empty. I'm not exactly sure how long before they sold it because family members had passed on or were in nursing home, etc. And then another fella had bought it and was looking at fixing it up, and ended up through mutual friends talking to me, and we ended up investigating it several times. So again, this is not anything that no one was attracting attention for tourism or anything, but the worker having trouble there reminded me of this too. Shortly before I saw the house for the first time, it wasn't that house that the problem was with the construction workers. It was with the neighbor's house. The neighbor lady was putting a new roof on her house. She had roofing crew, and the roofing crew were all from Latin America, which they tend to be very superstitious about spirits, don't want anything to do with spirits. It's something you avoid. And the company had to bring 3 separate work crews in because they kept getting scared off, not by what was happening in her house, but by this house next door. Specifically things that they would see in the attic windows and hear, and literally they'd all get off the roof and leave.
Mm. So
it took her weeks to get her roof done because they couldn't get people there to work. Which when I first heard the story, I was like, okay, I get that, but that seems a little excessive when you're not working on that house. But it was a very beautiful home at one point, and the original family's belongings, much of their belongings were still in the home. And covered in an inch of dust, etc. So you had that added factor. There had been some deaths in the family in the late 60s. A grandson of the couple that lived there the longest, who lived with them, was killed in a car accident not too far away. And they literally, when they heard that he had been killed, they went to his room and locked the door and never opened it again. And so literally his room was left exactly how he left it that morning. Which I have to admit that part was a little creepy when you walk in. There was no electricity. There was nothing hooked up to this house at this point. And there would be cold spots. Some of the coldest spots I've ever experienced were in that house, actually in the attic. So maybe the workers did see something. I don't know. But including at one point there were 4 of us standing in different parts of the attic, and the attic was like one half of this very large house, one side of it, and it was it was an open room, and something would go around the room and touch each one of us, flip hair, feel like running a finger up the back of the neck, that kind of thing. And then when this happened to the other people in the room, and then when it got to me, the coldest I've ever been touched by something that you couldn't see was there, and it was literally like dry ice, like a piece of dry ice tracing my cheekbone down to my chin and off the end of my chin, to the point that it just felt frozen, and even the next day it tingled.
Wow.
That is one place that we had an investigator actually run out of the house and never come back. That's the only time I had an investigator quite do that badly anyway. Decided that it just wasn't for him. Lots of voices and different things that went on, but there was definitely something there that, in reflection, I have no doubt that the workers saw something.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, love that. That's exciting. That had to have been a really unique place to investigate.
It really was. It really was. That's also the same house where people would feel heat off of the porcelain doll head.
Wow.
We can talk more about that more later, though.
Absolutely. Oh, we should also mention Beard Engine Brewing Company.
Yes, our other sponsor in Alba, Missouri, award-winning, 2 years in a row, been named the best brewery in Missouri by the Missouri Brewers Association, and the only English-style brewery in Missouri.
Absolutely. Also an incredibly haunted location and very historic block in
yes.
Very excited to get to go back. I'm looking forward to getting back there soon. And with that, we should probably close up for our short format YouTube Live. Head on over to Facebook. We invite you to follow us over there. Check out paranormalsciencelab.com for tickets and additional information for upcoming events. And also click like, share, subscribe, the notification bell, and all the things one does on social media.
And we appreciate y'all, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely.